things are on the up, or things are falling down. Celebrate the hard times, stay passionate through the lows. Find strength in the chaos, no matter which way it goes. It's not easy being blue. Heartbreak comes in many ways, the hardest times, the darkest days, but all these things get washed away with us, with us. The highs might not come every day, but memories do, and memories stay. Enjoy that moment anyway with us, with us, with us. It's not easy being blue. It's not easy being blue.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Monday Assessment by the View from the Medway Fancast in partnership with the Gillingham FC Supporters Club and now sponsored by Snodhurst Used Car Sales and Service Station. So, not really much to talk about in the intro tonight because we played Barrow. We lost to Barrow. So we will just bring us in slightly to our lineup this evening. And I've got David Creasy, I've got Warren, Max Amers Fan Club, and I've got Paul Fisher, former co-chairman and COO of the football club. So how are we this evening, gents?
Evening, Chris. Just still getting over from my 20-hour day of Barrow Saturday.
Yeah, I bet that was about abject as the team's performance, mate, wasn't it?
Honestly, the trains were on a go slow between Birmingham and Crewe. It took forever on the train. I left my house at 4:30 and I got home at 12:20, and I was subjected to
A very good game of football.
It comes in my top 4 of poor performances, along with Burscough in the FA Cup, Wickham when we got relegated, and Newport away just before Brad and Shannon took over.
Yeah. Yep. And how are you, Paul? How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I was at 2 of those games, Warren. So I'm pleased I didn't go on Saturday, so I'd have had a hat-trick of abject performances.
And Dave, how are you, my friend?
Yes, good, mate. Thanks for having me back on.
Well, you know, have to try with these delinquents sometimes. So, so we'll just quickly touch on Barrow's facts. So, Barrow were founded on the 16th of July, 1901. Their record attendance at Holker Street was 16,874 in 1954. For an FA Cup tie against Swansea, Holker Street's current capacity is 4,256. So we will touch on our lineups for the week as we always do. So we had Glenn Morris in goal. We had a back 4 of Shad, Max, Sam Gale, and Andy Smith making his debut for the club. We then had a midfield 2 of Amani Little and Robbie McKenzie. We then had, just sitting behind our striker and one of our own, Mr. Joe Bode, we had Elliot Nevitt, Bradley Dack, and Asher Agbanone. And then, of course, we had one of our own, Mr. Joe Bode up top. We then had a bench of Jack Nolan, Romeo Hutton, Jake Turner, JJ Morgan, Nelson Company, Max Clark, and Dominic Cornetto. Sorry, I keep doing this. Corness. So boys, we then lined up in a 4-2-3-1, essentially. And we will touch on this, boys, as we go forward. So I'm going to start with this. And main bone of contention for me at the weekend was you leave your top goal scorer at home and you play a striker on the left wing. So I will start with you, Paul. And what were your thoughts on the game?
I thought along similar lines as the as Coleman. Really, I think the first half when I watched it, I didn't think we were that bad in the first half, but we're just toothless, aren't we? We were just so bloody toothless. And then second half, it was like surrender. It was as if we just sort of hoisted the white flag up, really. And I think that's the thing I found most disappointing from the Gillingham team.
Yeah. So Warren, we'll talk about the lineups, mate. And again, you leave your top goal scorer at home, one that could make a difference, and put a striker on the left wing. I think playing a centre half at right back probably didn't work either. Shad playing at left back clearly didn't work because he just wasn't at the races, mate, was he?
I'll be honest with you. I was really disappointed with the team when it was announced. I disagreed with the Smith at right back. I thought he was our best player, and I'll go on to the reasons why later when we go to the man of the match. But
don't have a man of the match tonight because there weren't one.
Well, I thought Smith was our best player. I thought Sam Gell made a mistake for the first goal, got a little bit bullied. I don't think we created anything from midfield. I don't like this number 10 role. Maybe Bradley Dack in years gone by could quite easily have played the 10 role where he used to chase back and he used to be all around the park and still get up alongside strikers. He seemed to just struggle around the centre circle to me. He tried different things. They didn't come off. He was a little bit off the pace. And again, we'll talk about it later in the Blues News, but I just didn't see him create anything. And Nevitt, wide left, what a waste of time. He sulked because he played wide left. I don't think he put in much effort. Agbinone just runs up alleyways that have been closed for years. I just didn't see him create enough for me. Joe played a lone furrow up front and he did what he did on the scraps that he got. We didn't really give him the ball in good areas.
Yeah. So, David, what were your thoughts on the lineup? I just.
I was going to say, well, Coleman clearly doesn't rate Max Clark, and he clearly doesn't rate Jaden Clark. Max Clark, I can kind of get when you got wing backs. For me, I don't think Max Clark is a very good wing back. But if you're going to play a back four, I think Max Clark is a very good left back in a back four. And even when you look at the lineup, if you swapped Bodé and Nevitt round, and you had Bodé out wide and Nevitt up the middle, then it doesn't look too bad. But when you do lay it out, when it's like that, as I said, you've got a centre half at right back, centre half at left back, a centre forward at left wing, and I'll say Joe's definitely stood out more as a winger. You even say you got him out of position. Agbinone, I think, has played his whole career on the left wing. Mm-hmm. We've now put him out on the right wing, and it's just a bit of a mess at the moment. And I'd like to think tomorrow he will. Well, probably a few of those probably won't be playing tomorrow night, and hopefully there'll be a few more players playing in their actual position.
Yeah, and do you know what? For me, it was quite funny as well, because why would you play Joe Bodé up top and Elliot Nevitt on the left wing when Joe Bodé has had most success in his Gillingham career so far being on a wing? I just don't get. It's like square pegs in round holes, gents, isn't it? So but we will talk about the game itself, and we will talk about the fact that we lost 3-0 to a very average Barrow team. We also, I will give my match overview in the sense of the first half. It was like a pub team, really. It really was a Sunday League team, both of them Sunday League teams. We can also talk about the fact that There was a penalty shout for Barrow in the first half. There was a penalty shout for us in the first half. So, David, I'll come to you, mate. Like, what were your thoughts on the game overall and, well, the first half instance? Because there's not really much. It's picking bones, isn't it?
Was that for me, mate? I couldn't hear who you said.
Yes, mate.
No, yeah. Well, overall, it was just not very good. I think every time I'm on here, I'm amazed when I see how many shots it says that we've had. Because I can't remember us having 8 shots. And I think like everyone's kind of gone about saying that the first half wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. But the second half was absolutely abysmal. And the second and the third goals for me are completely unacceptable. We're by this point, we'd moved to a back 5. So you've got 3 centre halves, and for 2 goals, you've got a bloke standing on his own 6 yards from goal, tapping it in. I just, at this level, it's completely unacceptable. And I just find as well, I'm slightly feeling a little bit sorry for Sam Gale. I feel like he's earned his position in the team from a successful loan. And to be fair, he can't do much worse than we've had. But unfortunately for him, he's coming into such a toxic environment at the moment that I don't know if it's actually going to benefit him being in the team or actually do him worse being in the team. I don't know what you guys' thoughts are on that.
Yeah. So, Paul, we'll go with you, mate. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I think it goes. And Joe and Brad touched upon it tonight. Really, I think we've used 33, 34 players this year, maybe 35. I feel like we still, we don't know what our best team is. It's the middle of February, and I feel as if it's all the chopping and changing. And what? I know. Last time I was on the show, I said, look, League 2 football. It's hard, it's physical, you need 6'2" thugs, you need strong spine of the team, and you play 4-4-2 and you get the ball forward X number of times. It's ugly, it's not pretty. I just don't know I've sort of lost faith really in terms of what we want to, do we know what we want to be anymore?
Yeah, Warren, and yourself?
I totally agree with Paul. You've got to go 4-4-2 in this division. You've got to have 6'2" plus thugs that can run all day. We miss players like whenever Gillingham's got promoted, and Paul will agree with me from this division, we've had horrible teams to play against. Nobody wanted to play Gillingham because they got in your face. If there was a bit of an issue on the pitch, there'd be 11 players there. We wouldn't let opposition rest. Along with a couple of quick players with pace, and that should get you out of this division. But I'll touch on what Paul said about using so many players and still not knowing what our best team is. Why don't we know what our best team is?
Well,
I could tell you a core of 14 players that I would use from the squad every week.
Yeah.
Now, why? And we'd probably, if all 4 of us was to pick those 14 players now, I would say that we'd all pick roughly the same 14. Right? Maybe 1 or 2 exceptions, but we'd pick them in the main, the same 14. All the teams in the past, right, no matter what league it's been in, have been teams that have been consistent, used minimum amount of players, and they've not needed 30 odd players. You don't win things, you don't go up using 30 odd players. I'm sorry, you don't.
Yeah.
And as for the game, we huffed and puffed in the first half, but we never looked like breaking any houses down, did we?
Did
we
really huff and puff?
And the second half, we was doing okay up until we conceded, and then once we conceded, we just capitulated. The whole heart went out the team. Nobody was there really trying. I think the epitome of it was when Little got subbed, and as he was going past Coleman, he clapped Coleman in his face. I don't know whether he got that on the TV coverage.
I know what you're talking about, but I didn't watch it on TV.
It was petulant. But again, we just got bullied.
Yeah.
They bullied us.
Yeah.
Simple, pure and simple. We got bullied in midfield. We got bullied at the back. And Joe Bodie was left to run a lone furrow up front where he got no support from either wing or from behind him.
Yeah, but then this is the case. Like I spoke to a friend earlier, and a couple yesterday, and they said, like, you know, oh, we need a striker. But I'm not being funny, but if you've got no support from the midfield, you've got no support from the wingers, Haaland would not score in this league. Like it's unbelievable. There is no service. There's nothing on the wings. We're not crossing balls into the box. We're not doing anything. So to think that we need another striker is an absolute fallacy in my eyes, because we don't do the basics correctly. Therefore, we're not going to be able to get balls into the box for a striker that can actually score goals. So what is it that we are doing wrong, Paul?
We're playing a wrong sort of football, and we've got a wrong. I'll go back to this whole thing about our identity, about what Gillingham is and what we want. You know, what we want the team to be. You know, I was a bit surprised. You know, I kind of get entirely where Joe and Brad were coming from this evening when they were saying about, you know, a vision. You know, for vision, open brackets. You know, style. What football style we're gonna play. You know, are we going to try to play, little triangles on the ground, Premiership stuff? That won't get you out of League Two unless you somehow sort of manage to recruit 15 of the best players in the league who can do that. But it won't get you out. Diddy men and stuff won't get you out of this league. You've got to have big, ugly footballers. Excuse, you know, some of them are good-looking lads, I'm sure, but you've got to have hard guys. You've really got to have hard guys who are going to run through brick walls for you. If you haven't got them in League Two, it's not going to happen. You won't go up.
Yeah.
You won't compete.
So I just think, like, and Warren, I touched with you, mate, because you were there. Obviously, I watched it on TV. I just found it the worst game of Gills I've seen in a very, 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 very long time.
Can you tell me a time where we passed the ball 3 times?
After 20 minutes. I think it was after 20 minutes, and I think it was, oh no, it wasn't 3 times, it was 2. And it was just, it was awful, mate. Like, it was terrible. Like, my wife doesn't, and I've said this to you guys off like before and in the last couple of days, my wife does not watch football. She does not like football. But even she sat there and said on Saturday, this is terrible. Right? So if that's coming from someone that doesn't watch football, then what is going on in the powers that be, really, Matt? Warren?
Honestly, I just don't see any movement. I don't see any battle. I don't see us tackling like opposition players do. We don't clear the ball properly. We don't run after it. We don't chase lost causes. This one up front in this division is rubbish. It's never going to work unless you've got a really good 2 wide players, right, that are going to create, cut in, make shots themselves. It's never going to work. You've got to have the 2 up front.
The front lads,
have your 2 wide players.
The front lads are left too isolated. You know, we're asking a 19-year-old kid to be up there with no other yellow shirt around him for 30 yards.
I agree.
He's just left too isolated.
I agree, Paul. And as I say, Dak just couldn't. He didn't help defend, and he didn't help Joe up front. He basically stood on the halfway line. He tried to make things happen. Don't get me wrong. He tried, but I think we've got to appreciate that his legs are gone.
Well, I think it's quite resounding with that, to be fair, because as much as we thought that the idea of him coming back would be good, certain fans have said to me that it's a franchise signing. Certain fans to me have said that, it's just to get bums on seats, which is what a franchise signing is at the end of the day, Paul. What are your thoughts on Bradley Dack? And do you think that I don't think is the answer, mate? Do you?
Well, I'd like to, if I'd signed Bradley, I'd be saying if I was the manager, I'd be saying, right, I'm going to give you 10 games in the team. You get a good run in the side. Let's get your fitness up, and then let's see where we're at after 10 games consecutively in the side. Can you play 10 games without getting injured? Can you play a Saturday and a Tuesday for me? I mean, he's only 31, I believe, isn't he? He's 31 years old. I know he's done
31, yeah.
Yeah, he's done 2 cruciates. People do lose a bit of pace, but he's 31 years old. He is still a class player, but as Warren said, 2 cruciate ligaments, I think, has probably taken a toll. He's lost that half a yard where he used to just be able to use his body and get away from people. He doesn't get away from people anymore.
Yeah.
When he was around, he was fantastic in his first spell with us. Yeah, it was fantastic watching him then, but he's a different player now.
Yeah, he was like the Gillingham Messi, wasn't he? He was just very much like that, David. And what are your thoughts, David, on Bradley Dack? And do you think that let's be fair, he's spent most of the time that he's been back so far injured, so could argue potentially that he's still coming back from injury. What were your thoughts on him, and do you think that he could still come good?
I think like most, when he signed, I was excited, and I think like most, I've been pretty underwhelmed. I think this last few games is 16, 17 odd games to go. I think like Paul said, it's almost worth now you just keep him in, and if he can't do it, he can't do it. But in his press conference the other day, it said the club have the option on an extra year, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was here next year.
Yeah,
because I don't know what he's on, but he probably doesn't need the money, so probably not on load. So I wouldn't be shocked if he was here next year.
Yeah. Okay, boys. So I guess it was pretty much a non-event game for us. Pub teams against pub teams, but the best pub team won. So we will move on to the Views News, and I will hand this whole segment over to Warren.
Right, okay, guys. So Views News this week. So what I want to talk about is the transfer window, and I'll go to you, Paul. What did you think of the business we did in January?
Well, it wasn't, we had to get a couple of the higher wage earners off the wage bill. They both did, Tim Dieng and that they did, and George, I thought, did great jobs for us at the time. They kept us in the league. But as Brad touched upon tonight, they were sucking a lot of the wages out, especially with the financial fair play things we have to operate to. But they were also, I think, our 2 top goal scorers we've let go.
I agree.
And Tim, so, was there other solutions to that? I don't know. You can only sell or loan players out if there's somebody on the other side of that transaction who wants them.
And to be honest, Paul, with what we've seen in the last 18 months, would you, if you was a CEO of another football club, would you want any of our players?
Well, that's no, you wouldn't, would you? You wouldn't, wouldn't be, people wouldn't be don't think my phone would be red hot asking for, any of our particular players at the moment. Maybe 1 or 2 of the young lads you'd get inquiries about who've got potential, but most of the other lads are just underperforming for whatever that reason is. So why would you want them?
Yeah, I agree. David?
Yeah, I think like most, we're underwhelmed. Again, it's very hard to be critical after a couple of games, but I said Kambene, I'm not convinced on him. I know he's a young lad and he's only played a few games, but there's nothing in him that tells me he's anything better than what we've got. And unfortunately, that probably goes for the most. Again, we haven't seen them all, but out of the ones that we've bought so far, even the lad from Chelsea, I know he's played out of position, but doesn't look any better than what we've got. And when what we've got isn't very good, it doesn't say much about the transfers that we've bought in. And I said, like Paul said, we've let 2 players go out that, they're on high earners, but I think, they've scored quite a few goals. I think someone told me the other day as well that I think Dieng is actually the top goal scorer for Gillingham in the Gallinson era, which I think goes to show how bad the strikers have been. But I think once they can...
Sorry, Dave, sorry to cut across you. I was just going to say, on the lads we got in, there's a big difference between under 21 Premier League academy football when they're playing on carpets or pitches and it's all on the... There's a big difference between that and League 2 football.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think even if you look at Lapsley, and again, I could be wrong here, I don't think he's even started a game yet for Bradford. So he's kind of gone from in and out of our team to sub there. And it's... For him, it may be financial. Again, it may be that he's looking ahead to next season and beyond for a contract, and he probably knew he wasn't going to get one here. But I think some of the business just has been a little bit odd. And in the position that we're in, I think we've probably gone a bit too young to push on this season. I think we probably should have got, again, a bit more experience and gone from there, really.
Chris?
So underwhelmed.
Yeah, so sorry, lads, I was sorting the kids out because they were calling me. So I had to hand it over to Warren. And thank you, Warren, for stepping in. But yeah, no, for me, I don't really get it. Like, obviously, I've watched JJ Morgan quite a lot in PL2 because I do follow Chelsea quite a lot. I also follow the women's team as well as the men's team. Not saying that JJ Morgan's a woman. But
he just wouldn't get in their women's team.
No, but I thought that was a good one. He's not really had his chance yet. Agbanone, I think that he brings a spark that we need. Kambene's been anything but brilliant so far. And yeah, the likes of Corness and Smith, only time will tell, really, won't they? But the fact that we've let Dieng go when I feel that he was one of our better players, I would have probably let other players go before we let Dieng go, and probably kept Lapsley as well, because at the end of the day, they showed passion. They showed that they wanted to be there. So probably wouldn't have let them go over other players. But is what it is, isn't it? You know,
and also this 70%. You know, the stuff with the financial fair play, which Brad alluded to. You know, it does. If you've got 3 or 4 high earners who we needed to sign in January 22 to keep us up, it does restrict, I guess, a way forward.
Yeah. So, boys, we'll move on to Coleman's post-match and the guff that came out of his mouth. So I will start with you, David, on this one. He said that, I'm sick of it. Basically, I'm sick of it. The players don't really care. They don't want to play. He was confident that they would perform on Saturday, and there be sanctions and stuff like that. So I will start with you, mate, because I'm of the opinion that he said it when he came in. Oh, if players don't change, I'll change the players. Bonner said it before, if you don't change, I'll change you. And it seems to be like an ever recycling thing, but nothing ever changes. So it's a lot for me at the moment until he actually proves that he's going to change anything. It's a bit of guff.
Yeah, I'm a little bit with you on that. I think someone put something really good on social media the other day of the last 4 managers all kind of doing a version of that post-match. I think they showed a bit of Neil Harris after the relegation, Clements after an away game, and Bonner after the Bromley away game, and then this one. And maybe it's a little bit of, I don't want to say arrogance from Coleman, that he probably came in thinking that he would be able to change this around, and it's worked out pretty quickly that it's quite a difficult job that he's took on. And yeah, he's let his frustrations out. Is it good to see from your manager? Probably not. I think you like to see passion, but this just felt like just a bit, came across like he was just moaning, and it was very odd. And the way that these players have reacted over the last year or two, I don't think it's going to inspire them, because obviously we saw what happened when Bonner was slightly critical after the home game with Barrow, that how it all went downhill from there. I don't think it's going to give them the kick up the backside that they need. So we'll wait to see what he puts out tomorrow. I think, like we said earlier, unless he makes changes, it's all going to be, like you said, just a bit of guff. He's just saying stuff, but not actually doing what he says.
Yeah, I think Paul, we've kind of become a little bit numb to like words, really, within the fan base. I'm not saying that maybe Clements or something, but definitely under Bonner, where we were privy to all of these lovely like things of what's going to happen, and privy to this, that, and the other. So when we're then treated to this now, I think we've become a little bit numb to it, Paul, don't you think?
Yeah, I think motivating players. Hey, it must be hard at League Two. What's it like, bloody motivating a dressing room full of multi-millionaires in the Premier League? You know, motivating players. I just feel the whole kind of teacups at half-time stuff. Yeah, it's got a place, but if you're doing it regularly, it just becomes blind noise to the players. The players just say bollocks to that, keep their heads down. You know, we've heard it all before. So I think actions are really what's needed. I think to provoke a change in behaviour and an improvement in performance from people. So
yeah, no,
I don't necessarily think bollockings, teacups being thrown work anymore. You know, if you see that old John Sitton video on YouTube and that half time in Orient, you know, when he's effing and blinding and he sacked a player on the spot, you know, people laugh at it now. I don't know if it's got a place so much in the modern game. But I think it was a bit of frustration coming out from John Coleman at the end now.
Yeah, so Warren, obviously we're touching it with you, mate, as well. I think it was guff. A lot of people think it was, but then again, you know, we don't necessarily know what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, I've heard things that he ripped into the squad on Saturday after that game, and I couldn't blame him if he did. So, what would your thoughts be on it?
Right, so the first thing I say is when we interview players, managers, win or lose straight after a game, emotions are still running high, adrenaline still going, and you may say or not say some of the stuff that you actually either wanted to say or you didn't want to say. I think as soon as you get a microphone stuffed under your nose and say, "How do you feel about today, John?" If they'd have stuck a microphone under my nose after the game on Saturday, I think my reply would have been full of expletives. And the main interview would have been beep, beep, beep.
Yeah.
I'll go back to what Fish says and with the teacup bit, and I totally agree with him. In today's society where we're all a little bit precious and we need a bit of bubble wrap and cotton wool around us, the teacup bit and the shouting and screaming and having a go at players, it don't work, especially if you're doing it day in, day out on a training ground. But I can understand Coleman's mood at the end of the game, because what he must have seen after what he tried to put in training during the week just didn't happen out there on Saturday.
Yeah. Right. So we will touch on the Bradley Dack experiment, and Warren, I will go with you first.
Yeah, it's been a complete disaster. I'm sorry. We've lost 4 months of him before Christmas. He's now come back. Did he really get out of the centre circle on Saturday? Not really. Did he try and make things happen? Yes, but his legs have gone, and I don't think some of these players are on the same wavelength when it comes to him putting balls into space or areas where he expects players to be at a championship level. I don't think he's a League Two player. I don't think he fits into a League Two side unless he's got 10 other really good pros alongside him, and that's not going to happen. So I think it's been a disaster. I wouldn't keep him on at the end of the season. I'd let him go. I wouldn't exercise the year's contract. I'm sure the money could be used to get someone in that would be better for the club in this league. If we're still in this league, that is.
Well, yeah, this is the burning question at the moment, David, isn't it? If we're going to be in this league, then would you keep Bradley Dack? And do you think that it's been a bad move?
I don't think it was a bad move at the start. It's turned into a very bad move, and I think what Warren summed it up perfectly. Really, the main thing you see with Dack now compared to the first time, and again, I know he's had his injuries and stuff, but in that times he's dropping so deep as well to get the ball that then he's got no one in front of him because that's where he's meant to be. Yeah, I wouldn't. But as I said earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if they did keep him. But I wouldn't.
Right. And Paul,
I think
you've worked with him before, so
as Dave says, really now, I think he's lost his pace, so he naturally drops deeper because he's eager to get the ball and want to be the playmaker and whatever. But he used to have that acceleration to get past people, and then that upper body strength to hold people off, create that yard of space. A number of times he used to sort of weave into the towards the Raynham end and like slot one in the bottom corner or curl one man in that top corner. I can't see him doing it anymore, unfortunately, for Bradley. And I don't think he's a good enough player to be that in that number 10 role. I think there's better number 10s out there, and we seem to have about 6 or 7 of them on the books anyway. So because we seem to have just signed loads of number bloody 10s from what I've seen. So I don't know. I think Brad would have to. I think if I was still at the club, Brad would have a lot to prove in this last, the last 15 games of the season. He'd really have to turn it on to get another extension of his contract, to me.
Yeah.
Do you think that if, again, all hypothetical with the Gills, that if we were in the playoffs at this moment in time, we'd be seeing a completely different Dack? Or do you think it'd be roughly the same?
I don't think he'd get the team.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a good question.
So, Warren, we will quickly move on to broken promises by the club, mate, and we will start with you because you came up with this one yourself. So, Warren,
it's been a long time since I brought this one up. I've forgotten what I was on about, to be honest. You should have left me a post-it note. I just think that the promises by the club about bringing in exciting football, we're going to go for goals and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. With the choices that it's made, it hasn't really turned out like that, has it? It's
no.
It's been boring. Now I can put up with boring if we're winning, What
Yeah.
I can't do is put up with boring when we're losing.
Yeah.
And you win games 1-0, that's fine if you know you've got a defence that's going to hold out. Now, if we were to go 1-0 up, would I be confident that we could hold on for the rest of the game? Grimsby being the example, we didn't. And I just think it's the whole recruitment thing. And when we go on to the Q&A bit, the recruitment and what Brad and Joe were saying about the recruitment, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I look at the recruitment during the January window. We brought in Cornish from Liverpool, and he's nicknamed the Wand. He came on Saturday, he didn't take a free kick or corner.
Yeah.
And we're calling him the Wand, right? He also looked like a ball boy that had just been bought on. Honestly, it was like a boy amongst men. Agbon one, I don't know if he wants to be here or not. JJ Morgan, I haven't seen anything from him. I haven't seen a bit of pace, a turn of foot, a little trick. Whether he's been playing down the middle against Samuel or wide, I just haven't seen that in him. I'm to be convinced that he's worth 6 million, and if he is worth 6 million in a day's market, then God help us. Smith, I thought was excellent Saturday. I'd like to see him play centre half alongside Amer tomorrow night.
Well, I've got it under good authority that Max ain't going to be captain tomorrow. So there we go.
Yeah, but he's not going to be captain, but he should still play. I just think that some of the false narrative that we've been given, it just hasn't turned out.
Yeah. So we will bring Mr. Teaching in, Mr. Luke's 11 and of German Jills. So how are you, mate? You all right?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very well, mate. Very well. So we will just quickly touch on the broken promises from the club, and I'll ask yourself actually of what Warren was talking about. We don't know what direction we're going in at the moment, mate, do we?
Well, I don't think the club do either after that Q&A. I think touching on the Q&A itself, I was actually bitterly, I might be in the minority here, but I was actually bitterly disappointed with it. I think it was a PR disaster. I think there was a lot of self-preservation, deflection, and I get that they've got to protect the players and somewhat, but I think it was a wrong time to do it a day before the game. I don't know if any of you have seen Bradley Dack's Instagram. I actually agree with him, if I'm being honest. Why would they want to listen to that when they're preparing for a game to get absolute pelters? And I'm one of them that gives them quite a few.
No, really?
But for me, for me, for them to come out and say in nearly 2.5 years of owning the club, they don't know what our identity is or how we're going to be putting an identity together over the summer, screams alarm bells. I don't know how that works out, that you don't know what type of team you want to put together. And I know we've changed managers, and I'm not just saying this because Fish is here. I was actually looking at the recruitment that we did under Paul before the takeover, and you could see that there was a League Two team that we've all described where, I know we was scrimping at the barrel with some of the players we got with no money, but at least there was some type of team that we was putting together with a big Mikel Mandron, Scott Cashgett. I know Jordan Green turned out to be woeful. Dom Jeffries, who run his socks off. Maka, who was a leader. Even Che Alexander, I think, is better than Romeo Hutton. And there was some from them. We've lost our way completely. And is that because we've got two nice guys running the club that completely are making the same wrong decisions season and summer and window after window? That this is soft underbellies turned into the players because we're paying them too much and vice versa. And I understand what he was saying about the 70% and the 30% and he's trusted people in the wrong places. I get that. But with that 30% of money, we still could have recruited players that would have been good enough to not be where we are currently. And that Q&A has given me, I feel worse going in towards the end of the season than what I did listening to that Q&A. Because I thought Compa was way out of his depth, waffled too much, and didn't really give certain enough answers. And when Brad come out and said there were only one or two players that we need to change to make this squad competitive, I was thinking, what are you on about? It's worried me, that Q&A. It really has. But I might be in the minority. And I don't want to keep coming on here and being Mr. Negative all the time. I like to be a little bit of a realist. But I'm worried that we're headed in a direction that's not the right one and completely far off it.
Yeah, so Paul, given what Luke's just said, and I don't agree with all of it, but I agree with some of it. What are your thoughts on the Q&A as an overall, and what Luke just said?
I thought it had to be welcomed from Joe and Brad to come on. I thought it was a risky thing to do. So I welcome their transparency of doing it. I think it was interesting because I thought you guys tonight would ask me about what I thought was going wrong at the club, and I did write down about a lack of identity, and the guys were using management speak and calling it vision, and I thought I was listening to some business consultants. There was a lot of consultancy speak and stuff.
I thought it was Joe Compa's appraisal at one point.
Well, no, Joe's a nice guy, Brad's a nice guy. But for me, I touched upon it earlier, Luke, before you were here. I said about what's our style of play. I think that's the number one. What are we going to go into the last two seasons with? Were we going to play? Were we going to be a big, ugly, shithouse team? Or, I thought one of the reasons given when Neil went was about we wanted to move away from being a defensive side, 1-0, and be more expansive football, get it down on the ground, play the ball around a bit more. I don't think that's ever going to work in League Two. I honestly believe League Two is about, I keep saying it, it's about big lumps. You've got to have a really strong spine in our team. And I just don't think we've recruited that sort of player, unfortunately.
But then he alluded to that at the end, saying these are the type of players that we want. But then why have you not done that 2 years ago?
It's taken them 2 years maybe to realise that, which I'm surprised at.
Yeah, but when you've got the likes of Hess and Neil and Jacket as your people that are in charge of recruitment, they should know that, surely, no?
Well, you'd like to think so. Kenny had operated at a lot of levels, but there was a lot of people involved in that sort of football recruitment side of things when I left the club. There was, Paul Scally was heading up the football side. Brad was heavily involved in it. There was a lad came in who'd been
James.
an agent. No, was it James? Was it who'd been an agent?
James King is in Dagenham now, is he?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Then there was statistics were being thrown into the mix as well. I just didn't ever think. And in a way, I'm a bit old school. I think the managers should be sort of out watching players. He's the one who knows what sort of players he wants and what sort of team he wants.
Do you think we've overcomplicated it?
Yeah, I do.
And
for a League Two side, for a League Two club, I think we've overcomplicated. And actually, I think Brad said something similar along those lines tonight, didn't he?
Yeah, no, he did. And I think I agreed. I mean, I messaged Shannon earlier and I just said, Brad's coming across really well in respect to, how he's explaining the financial side of it. So, David, what were your thoughts on the podcast in its entirety?
Yeah, I was underwhelmed. I'm not going to lie. I think I said off air. By the time they'd answered their question, I'd actually forgot what the question was because the answers were so long-winded and they'd go off topic and that. Yeah, it was a bit of, I wouldn't say, I don't want to use the word waffle, but I'm going to use the word waffle. Yeah, and there was just a few things that came out of it that worried me, and Luke's kind of mentioned a lot of them, that as if they've known for a while what the problem is, but have not done anything about it. Like, there's not enough characters. Well, go sign some. We've had, again, you can't always do it in January, but we've had summers where you can go out and there's multiple free transfers, or where you've got a bit of money, go buy one. We've had some and they froze them out. Like Sean Williams, they froze him out.
Macca.
Yeah, gone. And it is they haven't helped themselves in areas, and the bit where they said that there was players bossing around the managers, and they've allowed that to go on. I found that, especially with the way a lot of the fans think of the players at the moment, to then leak that out, I thought was worrying. I just think overall, I probably went into it thinking there was going to be a lot more questions, but I think overall there was not enough questions and too longer answers.
Yeah, Warren, and your thoughts on it, mate, before we leave it to the room, and I will go back to Luke on it as well, because I'm pretty sure he's got much more to say on it. So, Warren.
Yeah, I made some notes during the show, and these are the ones that really worried me. Was that Joe Coleman went on quite a while about having a leader on the pitch and getting a leader before he went on to talk about Aimer being stripped of the captaincy. Now, I said that we needed a real leader back in August when the ME7 did a podcast with Mark Bonner. I said we needed a left back and a real leader, and I was sort of laughed at by them all in the room. But if we was that desperate to get a leader, why did we sign 3 kids during the window and not one leader? If that's the one thing that we desperately needed. I didn't get that one. Brad saying about the numbers too big in the squad, which makes the squad unhappy. I quite agree with that. And playing 33 players is just ridiculous. If you're ever going to win anything, you've got a core players of 14 or 18 in today's football. So why did Brad allow so many numbers to be involved within the football club? At the end of the day, he's the one with the purse strings. Why did he allow too many players to be signed? I'll go on to the recruitment process, and I was talking about the signings we made when Brad came in, and it seemed to me that he seemed to name somebody who's left the club now, not you, Fish. You'll be pleased to know, but he seemed
the one that should come back.
he was blaming. I think he was blaming somebody that overindulging in the football side contracts, whatever, and paying far too much money. And I'll ask Paul: Did your ex-boss or your ex-co-chairman, was he part of that process when we brought those players in when the Gallinsons came in to keep us up?
Yeah. Paul was around, but I wouldn't I'm not going to jump on the anti-Paul Scally sort of bandwagon on that, because one thing I'd say about Paul is he had 26, 27 years of negotiating with players and experience in the game, which I don't think should be underestimated.
Yeah, but I just felt that during the Q&A, Brad seemed to allude that sort of business was wrong, what they did. I just looking at my notes, and I think it's just given out the same false hope for next year as we've had for the last 2 years, that things are going to change, but we can do as many Q&A sessions as we want. We can have as many private meetings with Joe or Brad or whatever, and private conversations. But I'd like to ask the panel, what do you think anything will change that drastically in the summer with the club and its current format? Do you think you can see things changing for the better come the summer?
No.
They've got to set their the bar higher. They've got to be looking at players from. Again, it all comes down to money, but you've got to be looking at higher level players and taking them and bringing them down. And if it costs you money, it costs you money. But the way we're going with just constantly buying players from League Two, that they're in League Two for a reason, and we need to start. If we've got ambitions, we've got to go and do it.
Yeah,
I think this goes back. Go on.
Sorry, Lou, I was going to say, where you've got so many players out of contract this summer or the end of this season, you are going to have a lot more flexibility for the club to recruit, a new squad, a different squad. But I know what I'd be putting on the search engine. Number one, it'd be physicality for me.
Yeah,
if you want to get out of League Two.
And Brad alluded to the fact that this is what worried me, that we only needed one or two, and he'd be signing quite a few or keeping quite a few of those out of contract on. And I think to myself, why would he say that? You're not going to tell every player now with X amount of cup finals to go that you're going to make wholesale changes at the end. But in being transparent and coming onto a podcast, why lie about it?
I think, I'm sorry, but I think the recruitment department needs ripping up and starting again. Paul's, you obviously know your golf and stuff like that. If you're a captain of a golf team and you're putting a golf team together and keep assembling and you keep failing every time, you're not going to be the captain anymore, are you? And recruiting these players in. It's the same with the recruitment department. We've given Hess ample opportunity. Whether you've got, and I'll go back to it with either the 30% or not, you can still sign decent League Two players on half of the money we've offered out to some of these players in these contracts, especially in the summer. When we've got the likes of Nevitt, Rowe, Nolan, they haven't come cheap. So I think we can keep sacking managers, but why does Hess and the recruitment department get to keep their jobs? Because to me, I think this January and the summer was their chance to prove a point. Keep going back to the money and stuff like that, but we still haven't signed the right type of player. Armani Little is probably the only one in the last 2.5 years who's a Gillingham player. I don't know if anybody else can name me one more than that we signed, because I can't. Or Dom Jeffries, maybe. But apart from that, we've got all the fundamentals wrong, and it's baffling considering we've got a club legend who's been there and done it that can't sign a Gillingham player. But I don't trust them to go. And I know I've said it before, I don't think we need a footballing man who's the MD who has. I know Brad didn't want to talk about the Wrexham and stuff like that, but they brought people in that have got experience at building projects. We haven't. No disrespect to Joe, and I think this is where our downfall is. We've got nice guys at the top that no one's run a project of this magnitude before on the footballing side. Off the pitch, it's the best we've ever had it. Hats off to Joe, Brad, Shannon, all of that team. That's fantastic. If we go down to the National League, you ain't going to be selling them sponsors, are you?
No.
So I think we need a complete rebuild of that department, because they have failed consistently for the last 2.5 years. If I fail in my job for 6 months to a year, I'm out. So why should they be any different?
Thing I found interesting as well with when they came out and we've not had a vision. Then what are the recruitment team what are they looking? What are they even typing in to look for if you don't know yourselves what your team's trying to do?
Paul, would you ask a question? Would you trust the process of the off-field side to get it right in the summer?
I think Andy's a club legend. I've always found Andy's good at finding those diamonds in the. Andy's been good for the club. Those rough diamonds, maybe, who, 2 out of 3 of them you get wrong, but you'll probably find that 1 out of 3 will turn out to be, that rough diamond. I'm a huge fan of Hess. He's a club legend. I know him well. I can't ever speak highly enough of Andy. He's an old school football guy. Is that the right methods nowadays? He gets out and watches plenty of games, which is what I like. I'm less about the stats. Maybe there's too much emphasis on the stats now. I think Joe said, what did he say? There's 15,000 players on the database, which is good.
Well,
don't get me wrong, but maybe there's too much emphasis on stats. Not enough emphasis on, Joe spoke tonight about a due diligence. It struck me they haven't been doing their due diligence. When I was there with Neil,
no medical.
Yeah, when I was there with Neil,
that was quite.
We had. I'm not. Our recruitment was, but we didn't have any resources.
No.
But Neil would ring contacts up in the game when we fancied a player. What sort of character is this lad? Is he going to fit in? Is he a leader? Is he a follower? Is he someone who needs a bollocking? Is he someone who needs an arm around him? All them sorts of things. We've signed a lot of lads from up north who've come down. Have they settled down south? Do their families like it down south? They're all factors that you have to sort of take into account when you're signing players.
Yeah. Yep. So, we're gonna. Sorry, lads, I had to go. Kids were screaming upstairs, so Mrs. is at work tonight. She usually has Mondays off, but she's the boss of a company, so I have to do this these days. So, do we have any more to talk about with regards to the Q&A? And I think my main take out of it is Brad's comments about the 80% of the 70% and all that kind of thing. I think Brad came across very well. Luke, I think he came across really good. And I spoke to Shannon and I said, Brad's coming across well. I just don't think that there was not enough clarity in it as a whole for me.
And I think this is where it was wrong doing it the night before a game, because, like I say, players say they're not listening, but when you looked at Bradley Dack's Instagram, it said joined, so he's done himself a wrong in there to say that he wasn't listening to it.
So was Brad listening to it, Luke?
Yeah, so on his Instagram it said joined, so he was listening to it, but I don't know if he's he's done a bit of a schoolboy one there, but we'll let him off for that. But I thought Brad spoke well about the facts and everything else like that. For me, I think they're both of them are in a little bit of a denial, and I think there was like I've said before, I think there was a lot of deflection, and I thought they kind of countered their arguments and not what we've mentioned about they know what they need for recruitment, but they haven't done it. I know Joe's an asker. I just think he's out of his depth, and not because he's just in my left-hand corner screen, but I think we need someone of this man's stature alongside him, should I say?
Here we go. Let's just suck up a little bit.
He didn't see this coming.
I'm going to log off.
To be fair, me and Luke
I think he needs help. I think he needs help.
I agree. I'm not saying it's me. I'm not beginning enough to say that, but I think having some sort of mentor sitting next to Joe. But I mean, Brad's a good businessman. He's been in English football 2.5 years. That's all. It takes time.
Maybe they both need a mentor. And then obviously I know they said it was going to be Scally, but maybe they both need a mentor, like bringing a CEO or something. I don't know. I think they need help. I think they need help. I think that's what will come out of it. They need help.
And I personally think that Mr. Fisher would be the perfect recipe to help our football club at the moment. And not just saying that because he's on screen. I've said that before. And yes.
Oh, moving on.
So anyway, Luke, I'll let you go, mate.
Lovely.
And thanks for coming on, mate. And always appreciate you coming on, mate. So thank you.
No
go and look after those babies, man.
No worries, mate. See you later. Cheers.
Take
Cheers,
care,
Luke.
Good luck, Luke.
So, boys, we will just quickly move on to our look ahead for tomorrow night at the Bescott Stadium at 7:45. And I think both teams are in a little bit of a pickle at the moment, to be fair, considering they were 16 points clear at the top, and now they're 6 points clear at the top. So Walsall have one loss, drawn, lost, and we've lost, drawn, lost. So I'll start with you, Warren. And what are your hopes and wishes for tomorrow night?
It would be the most Gillsy thing ever to go and win 2 or 3-0 tomorrow night. Right? Unfortunately, we haven't got any Gillsy players. So I can't see us getting anything out of the game. If we do, I'll be going to church Sunday in my best suit, because all my prayers would have been answered this week.
Come by armour, Lord.
Yeah, I think he'll play tomorrow.
You reckon?
Yeah, but I just think that it wouldn't surprise me if we went and got a result there. It wouldn't.
No.
But can I see it with this group of players? No, I can't.
No.
And I can't see it playing the formation that John Coleman wants to play. I just don't see anything there. I just don't see any style there. And being an old style manager, I'd just like to see him go back to the old style 4-4-2 and just go and give it a go. What have we got to lose? Because we're not giving it a go and losing 3-0 at Barrow, so we might as well give it a go and lose 3-0 at Walsall.
Yeah.
At least we'd have given it a go.
Yeah, Paul. I think it's quite telling, isn't it, that we're all now just clambering over what we could or couldn't do, rather than being a team that we know what we can do and we have an identity. So, what would be your prediction for tomorrow night?
I just think the slump we're in at the moment, I can't see us getting anything out of the game. I really, really hope I'm wrong. I'd love us to sneak a 1-0 ugly win up there.
Yeah.
That'd be brilliant, but I may surprise. But we are catching Walsall when they're in a slump, so anything could happen.
Yeah, and David, I think that's quite telling, isn't it? When we think, let's go and let's do something, just something that will come off somebody's arse, or just something that it went in the goal, or an own goal, but apparently those don't count for me. So so mate, what are your thoughts?
Well, we never do well at Walsall.
Oh.
So we've got that, but
I agree with you there, Dave.
Yeah, so I think when you look at those stats, it's probably come good for both teams, but it's going to sound so negative, and very old school. You just want to see him put in a bit of a performance, put some effort in, try, and no one's expecting anything tomorrow. So again, if they can come away with a point or a narrow defeat, but put something in that we can all then look forward to on Saturday to build on something. I think they just need to start something that we can build on, and hopefully that starts tomorrow. But like Warren said, I don't think any of us would be that shocked if we won, because it'd be very Gillsy. Like when we lost at home to, I can't remember who it was, and then we went and beat Port Vale the week after. It was, I can't even remember who that was, but we lost to someone near the bottom and then beat Port Vale. It's very Gillsy.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna go for a draw personally. Can't see a win. Can see a loss, of course. I just don't think that we're gonna do much, but we will see tomorrow night. I'll be tuned in. I'm not going to away games at the moment, the same as 90% of people aren't going to away games. I can't afford it for a start. And I would rather put chicken nuggets on the plate of my children than pay for a ticket to go and watch this absolute pile of shite. So, as you know, we are in partnership with the Gillingham FC Supporters Club, and the details are there. The website is GFCFC, and there we go. We are also being sponsored by Snodhurst Used Car Sales and Service Station, Snodhurst Avenue, Chatham, Ep25 TP, and the details are there for you guys if you need any car. Sorry, any car issues. So go to them guys as well. So I guess we're at the end of the show. I didn't upload the actually, so I'll just quickly do it now. No, I won't. So we are on X at TVF10. We are also a Facebook group at the View from the Medway, and we are on, did I say YouTube? So we're there as well. So if you want to contact us, then feel free to message me and we can get your thoughts across. But I've been Chris. He's been David. He's been Warren. He's been Mr. Chairman Extraordinaire, Mr. Paul Fisher. And good night.